I'm going to take you back in time, in my story, in my journey. When I was a little girl, I could have very easily been a statistic. But as luck would have it, I was very, very fortunate, and that was not the case at all. In my case, in the situation that I was in with my mother and my father, I could have very easily found myself as a child that was not taken care of, that was continuously beaten, that was malnourished. I was able to get out of that situation, and here's how that story goes. When I was about 3 years old, that's about as far back as I can remember, myself and my sister, who was 2 years older, we were a product of a broken family. Husband and wife had broken up and gone their separate ways. My mother had taken to alcohol, and my father had taken a new wife. And in that, my sister and I were consistently going from house to house. No big deal, right? Well, here's where things got a little difficult. My mother would leave my sister and I for days at a time, leaving us to our own devices. And remember, I said I was 3, maybe even younger, but again, this is as far back as I can remember. And some of the stories that have been shared with me over time, because I did stay in touch with some of my family members, found out that, there were times where I was just left. And when I was left in urine, I was left in feces, and I have scars to prove it. Your body breaks down in those circumstances. And if at some point I was at my father's house with his wife and my stepmother, there were times of just terrible, terrible child abuse. I was beaten with a belt buckle. I was forced to eat things that could have essentially killed me. I had been pushed up the steps and had stitches in my chin. I was tied to a bed. I was forced to eat feces, and the list goes on. But somebody was watching. I don't know who that somebody was, but one day, a lady showed up at my father's front porch. And there was a black bag on the front porch as well. That black bag defined my life. So that lady and I, we had left to never return, along with my black bag. And it was the first time that I had eaten a bag of Utz potato chips, and we took a trip to a place called St. Vincent's. St. Vincent's was an orphanage. It was an orphanage that I was going to be living in for a number of years. It was not a bad place. It was not awesome. It was an orphanage. And no, it wasn't like the movie Annie. It didn't have a Miss Hannigan. In fact, the people were actually very nice. I don't know how many children were there. There were a lot in my eyes. I remember sharing a room with many girls. And then there were boys who were also sharing a villa. And it was all about routine. That routine was breakfast, lunch, dinner. If it was, something that we needed to do, if it was using the bathroom or our bath time at night, it was like an assembly line. So again, it wasn't a bad experience, but it wasn't home, it wasn't family. So I missed out on that. I had no idea when I was going to get to see my mother ever again. I had no idea when I was ever going to get to see my father again. Long story short, I wouldn't. And so one day, I was introduced to a wonderful family. And that family started to visit with me, started to take me out for lunches. And as the story goes and time goes by, this family recognized that I was somebody they wanted to bring home long term. It was a wonderful family, wonderful people. And in the time that I had spent with them for a number of years, I was excited. I got to call somebody mom. I got to call somebody dad. And it was everything a little girl could have asked for. But in the back of my mind, I was still thinking about my mom. Where was my mom? Where was the mother that I was supposed to naturally love and miss? She was nowhere to be found. She was supposed to be working on herself. She was supposed to be getting herself together. She was supposed to be beating alcoholism and the ultimate reason that she had lost her children. So I could have been a statistic. I could have been that child that you see sometimes that isn't taken care of, but somebody hasn't yet stepped in. So I was welcomed into this wonderful family, and I had 4 years. 4 years to build a relationship with complete strangers that offered me their home, that offered me a safe environment, that wanted to be parents because they couldn't. And after that 4 years, they had welcomed someone into their home to help them, to help someone else, because that's just the type of people that my adoptive mom and dad had been. They just were wonderful people, and they gave of themselves, and they helped people in every way that they could. But when they brought that person into the home to help them, what they didn't know is what the future was going to hold for me. And not long after that person moved into the home, my safe environment was gone. And that is when the sexual molestation had begun.
As I continue to share my story, my goal is that you'll find hope.